today's episode, we'll be having a look at the May-June 2024 Principles of Business CXC paper. Of course, we are doing this paper in order for you guys to prepare well for your CXC exams. Alright guys, let's jump into it. Let's have a look at question 1. Now, question 1, Joanna recently graduated from university with a degree in management studies and wants to operate her own business. List 4 management functions that Joanna would be expected to perform in the business. Well, simple answers for those 4 functions include planning, organizing, delegating, and motivating. Alright, time for us to move on to part B. Now, state the responsibilities that Joanna's business would have to each of the following stakeholders. Employees, well, responsibility that she would have towards employees would be to provide fair wages for the job performed and even to provide good working conditions for the workers. Now, another stakeholder will involve customers. Another 2 responsibilities that her business will have towards customers will be to provide goods and services of good quality at reasonable prices that consumers are willing to pay, and also provide good after-sales support. Yet another stakeholder involves the government, and responsibilities towards the government include to comply with laws and regulations, such as with business registration and payment of taxes, and even to assist the government by providing goods and services to the population, while at the same time providing employment to citizens. I guess some good answers there. Now moving on to part C. State 4 guidelines other than effective communication that Joanna should follow in order to establish and maintain good management and staff relations. So in order to avoid conflicts, what could she do? Well, 1. Practicing good leadership skills. 2. Motivating workers. 3. Improving working conditions. And 4. Recognizing and rewarding employees for good performance. Good. Time for us to move on to part D, guys. Now, you guys would notice part D in many of these questions has the term explain, and the term explain means you're going to have to write a little more to make sure and get your full marks. So let's have a go. Explain 2 strategies for effective communication that Joanna should utilize in the management of the business. The first point there would be to use clear and simple language. Now we explain. Joanna should avoid technical jargon and complicated instructions when speaking to staff. By using straightforward words, employees will understand tasks more easily, reduce mistakes, and improve the efficiency of the business. Good. Now, point number 2. She should encourage feedback and active listening. Well, Joanna should create opportunities for workers to share their ideas and concerns, and she must listen carefully to what they say. This builds trust, improves teamwork, and ensures that management decisions reflect the needs of the employees, leading to better staff relations. There you go, guys. Some nice explanations here for your 6 marks. Now, this brings us to the end of question 1. Time for us to move on to question 2. Now, question 2 is a contract question, guys. Section 4. Let's have a look. Paul and Josh exchanged the following text messages. Paul said, I need a DJ for my party on the 15th of August. Are you available? I will pay $6,000. Josh responded, Yes, I am available and I would love to do it. But can you increase the payment to $6,500? So Josh asked a question. Paul said, Well, glad you're available, but I will get back to you regarding the fee. There was no further communication between Paul and Josh. On the 15th of August, Josh arrived at the party ready to perform. Josh was furious when Paul informed him that another DJ was hired and he threatened to sue Paul for breach of contract. So first of all, part A1, define the term contract. Now, a contract is a legally binding agreement made between 2 or more parties that would be enforceable by law, and that's a nice little definition right here for 2 marks. Now, part A2, identify the characteristic of a simple contract highlighted in the case above. Well, this characteristic was about offer and acceptance. There's an offer being given, bid or proposal, and there was acceptance being expected, but the characteristic above is offer and acceptance. Describe 2 other characteristics other than the ones cited above. While other characteristics include consideration, which is normally the exchange of one thing of value, such as a product or service, for another thing of value, such as payment, and also competence or capacity, that both parties entering the contract must have the capacity to do so by being of sound mind and reaching the age of adulthood. Yeah, guys, 2 characteristics listed nicely. Now moving on to part B1, state whether Josh is likely to succeed if he takes action against Paul. And the answer for that is no, Josh will not be successful if he takes action against Paul. Now part B2 will ask us why. Provide an explanation to support your answer in B1. Well, we know that the case involved was offer and acceptance, so therefore Paul offered $6,000, but Josh did not accept. Josh, when he asked the question if the price would be moved up to 6,005, was in fact a counter offer. So Josh made a counter offer. Now, you all know a counter offer basically cancels the original offer that was made by the offerer to the offeree, and is now a new offer moving from the offeree to the offerer. Paul never accepted Josh's $6,500 offer. He only said he'll get back to him regarding a fee. Therefore, this was not acceptance. So, since there's no acceptance of the term, no contract was formed. Therefore, Josh will not win in a court of law. Now, list three characteristics of a specialty contract, guys. There's the other type of contract, specialty. Specialty are more formal contracts which must be signed, sealed, and delivered. There we go. Right, time for us to move on to part D. Explain with the use of suitable examples two ways by which a contract may be terminated or discharged. Terminated or discharged means that a contract may end, and one way is by performance. The contract is discharged when both parties carry out their obligations or their arrangements as agreed. Now, I went ahead and used back the same example with Paul and Josh. If Josh agrees to DJ Paul's party for $6,000 and he did perform, while Paul pays, the contract would have been ended by performance. I just said use any examples, I used back Josh and Paul. Now, another way this contract could end is by breach. A contract may be terminated if one party fails to carry out their side. Example, if Paul refuses to pay Josh after the service contract was discharged, after the DJ service was performed, the contract will be discharged by breach and Josh may claim damages. Alright guys, so performance means both parties carry out their side, contract ends. Discharge or breach. Breach means contract may end if one party does his part and the other party fails to carry out his side. Right? That's how it went down. Alright guys, so good job there. That would have been another question. Question 2 with 20 marks. Time for us to move on to question 3. Now question 3 tests the topic of production, which was section 5. Let's have a look. Now state two factors of production. Now two factors of production include land and labor. Moving on to part B1. Identify one major natural resource found in the Caribbean. One major resource found in the Caribbean will be sugarcane, and the industry developed from the natural resource identified from B1 above would be the sugarcane industry. Good. Now part C. Give us a nice little table and ask us to list the type of production and the level of production. So let's have a look at it. Complete the table below to show the classification of each type of activity by type of production and level of production. An example has been provided for us. So the first one, Oakwood Furnishings Limited makes wooden furniture for sale to retail stores throughout the country. This is manufacturing production, and this level of production, since they are providing for retail stores throughout the country, will be domestic consumption. Right, now let's move on. Prince Mackey, a Caribbean soca artist, performs across the Caribbean, Europe, and North America. This type of production, guys, is tertiary level. Tertiary type, I should say, and the level of production will be surplus level. There we go. And moving on to part 2. Blue Waters Fishing Cooperative, located in the parish of St. Teresa, supplies fresh fish and other seafood to restaurants and supermarkets in St. Teresa and the adjoining parishes. This is the extractive type of production, guys, and the level will be domestic. Now, Justin makes school uniforms for his children and other relatives. This is also manufacturing, and the level of production will be subsistence. I hope you guys got those totally correct. Good. Time for us to move on to part D. The general manager of Premium Chocolate Factory made the following statement to the board of directors. Production for the year 2021 was up by 15% over the previous years, but overall productivity declined by 10%. Explain the meaning of the statement above, clearly differentiating between production and productivity. Alright, guys. Now, the question simply asks us to differentiate or state the difference between production and productivity. Now, production, as we all know, refers to the process of using resources and converting them into finished products. In this case, Premium Chocolate Factory produced 15% more chocolates in 2021 compared to 2022. So, because they produced more, their production would have been increased. Because production looks at the resources being converted into finished products. Now, in terms of productivity, while productivity measures efficiency, how effectively resources are used to generate your input. So, productivity measures output in relation to input. Now, productivity declined by 10%, meaning that although more chocolates were produced, it required more inputs per unit of output than before. So, even though production went up, the company was less productive, was less efficient because they had to use more input to produce the given level of output. So productivity declined by 10%. Good job, guys. Moving on to part E. A recent survey indicated that there was a significant increase in the productivity of the staff of Sunshine Beach Resort when compared with previous years. Explain two reasons for the increased productivity of the staff of Sunshine Beach Resort. Now, remember we said productivity looks at efficiency, so they're asking us here what could help with improving the efficiency of workers. Now, what could have helped would be the use of capital. Capital is all those tools and equipment that may have been used. The resort may have invested in new equipment, upgraded facility, or improved technology, and these forms of capital will make work easier and faster, allowing staff to perform tasks more efficiently and produce higher output. Good. Now, another reason that the productivity or efficiency of the staff may have improved is because of human resource development, especially in training and education. Management may have provided staff training and professional development programs. This will help to improve employee skills, knowledge, and motivation, leading to better performance and higher productivity levels. Alright, guys, there we go. Some nice answers there for us to pick up our 6 marks. Now, time for us to move on to the very next question, which is question number 4. Now, question number 4 deals with a bit of marketing. And the first question there in part A1, define the term market. Now, a market, as we all know, will be any situation that brings buyers and sellers in contact. It may be a physical or virtual environment. Good. Now, part A2, marketing. Now, marketing is a process which involves identifying and anticipating customers' requirements in order to meet those requirements and make a profit. Nicely done. Now, part B lists 4 elements of the traditional marketing mix. The marketing mix involves the 4 P's, which is product, price, promotion, and place. Good. Part C, guys. Describe each of the following marketing activities and state one example of each activity. Branding. Now, branding is the process of creating a unique name, symbol, or design that identifies and differentiates a product or company from its competitors. Branding will help build recognition and loyalty amongst customers. There we go, guys. Nice description of the term branding. Now, time for us to move on to part C2, sales promotion. Now, sales promotion refers to short-term techniques that are designed to encourage customers to buy products or services immediately. So, there's a short-term way that companies encourage persons to purchase from them. It boosts demand and attracts attention to the market. Now, there are many different types of sales promotion techniques, but we can include one example right here. So we'll make sure to get our marks. One example includes buy one, get one free sale, like a BOGO sale, guys, right? There we go. Great. Time for us to move on to part D. The COVID-19 pandemic presented Pat with a business opportunity to manufacture and sell hand sanitizers. Initially, she was extremely optimistic as she thought that the demand for her product would have been great. After 1 year operation, she was disappointed that the sale of her hand sanitizers were not as expected. Explain two factors that may have influenced the consumer's response to parts hand sanitizers. So we are currently looking here now at consumer behavior. Now there are many different factors that could affect consumer behavior. The questions ask us to explain two. So let's look at the two obvious factors that will affect consumer behavior. And the most obvious factor is price. Now, price is basically the amount of money consumers will have to pay, be willing to pay for the product. If price is high, then demand will be low. If parts hand sanitizers were priced higher than the competitors, consumers may have chosen the cheaper option, which is to buy from the competitor. Price directly affects affordability and demand. So again, if part sanitizers were at a high price, her sales may not have been what was expected. Because of course, again, consumers will normally buy the cheaper alternative, which is the cheaper hand sanitizer from her competitor. Good. Now another obvious example or factor that will affect consumer behavior includes quality. Let's have a look at quality. Consumers will judge products based on quality. Quality of the hand sanitizers will be judged by how effective they are. If her product was perceived as lower quality compared to other brands, then customers may have purchased other brands and not her product, leading to disappointing sales. So, two factors there, price and quality. Right, guys, that would have been the end of question 4. And now we move on to the final question, which is question 5. Now, this question 5 is testing us on section 10 of your syllabus, which includes global business environment and the use of business technology. So let's have a look at question 5A. 1. State 4 ways in which information and communication technology has influenced banking and the finance operations. Well, let's have a look at number 1. Well, banking has been affected because of technology through the use of ATM machines, guys, automated teller machines, which will help with deposits and withdrawal of funds as well as other services without customers having to go into a bank to access teller services. Good. Now, 2. The practice of online banking, which enables customers to access their accounts from home and other locations using personal computers. Great, we all know about online banking. And well, electronic commerce. Now, using the internet, individuals and businesses are now able to make business transactions, purchases, and sales via the internet, the World Wide Web. So you do not now have to visit a physical brick and mortar store. Good so far. Now, the fourth way that where technologies influence banking and commerce will be where ICT has now allowed customers to be able to pay for products electronically rather than with physical notes and coins. Yeah, guys, good job there. Good. Now, moving on to part 2, identify 2 computer software programs designed for use in businesses. Well, in terms of the accountant part of it, QuickBooks software normally used, and Microsoft Word, as well as another software program. Now, part B, distinguish between e-business and e-commerce. Now, e-commerce covers outward-facing processes that touch customers, suppliers, and external partners, including sales, marketing, order taking, delivery, customer service, purchasing of raw materials and supplies for production, and even the procurement of indirect operating expenses such as office supplies. Now, what this basically means that e-commerce is outward facing. You're dealing with persons outside the organization. So you're liaising with your customers, liaising with your suppliers, liaising with your external partners. That's what e-commerce basically says. Now, e-business is a bit of e-commerce, yes, which deals with outward facing processes, but e-business also includes internal processes, guys. That's the difference right here, right? Internal processes such as using computers to assist with the internal runnings of the business. So let's look at the proper definition. E-business includes e-commerce, but also covers internal processes such as production, inventory management, product development, risk management, finance, knowledge management, and HR resources. E-business strategy is often more focused on internal processes, right? So e-commerce more outward facing, e-business outward as well as inward. There we go. Right, part C. State 4 ways in which ICT could improve the operations of a business. IC will obviously help with speed and time. It will help with easier storage. It will help with improved sharing of information as well as automation. Great job, guys. Part C, 4 marks for stating 4 ways. Good. Time to move on to part D, guys. And part D was with 6 marks. Let's have a look. The unethical use of ICT poses a significant challenge to businesses. One such issue is that of privacy. Explain 2 issues relating to privacy that have arisen due to unethical use of ICT. Now, when we talk about unethical use of ICT, we are talking about, moral behavior, things that, persons can differentiate between right and wrong. Now, one unethical use of ICT includes unauthorized sharing of personal information. Remember, you're talking about privacy. Now, we're talking about unauthorized sharing of personal information. Now, businesses sometimes will give out customers' details such as names, addresses, or account numbers without permission. This is a breach of privacy, and this can lead to problems like identity theft or unwanted marketing. So, companies will store a database with customers' names and addresses and so on. You know, if they actually give this out to third parties without permission, this is breach of customer privacy. And customers may not like this, as we said, because of identity theft could take place and unwanted marketing, where these outsiders will call up the customers, and try to sell products and services to them. Good. Now, another unethical use of IC involves collecting and keeping too much data. Sometimes companies may gather more information than necessary, or they may store it for longer than needed, right? If they gather more personal information for customers than necessary, and if they keep them for longer periods than is actually needed, then this could increase the risk of hackers or unauthorized persons accessing private records, which customers will now not appreciate and will reduce customers' trust. So those are 2 unethical ways that privacy may be affected because of the use of ICT, guys. Right, there you go for 6 marks. Now, this actually brings us to the end of your paper, guys. So, this June 2024 paper wasn't too bad. This was your June 2024 Principles of Business CX paper. Make sure and comment, like, and subscribe, and look forward to our new videos showing you guys more solutions to your POB subject. Thanks for looking on, guys, and see you guys again very, very soon.